Hey now, how is everybody doing? Welcome to Red Alert Diaries Live with Tanya E. Hood. I'm glad I get the chance to see you again and hoping that you listened to this morning's episode because I was wondering, are you ready to break free from patterns that have been holding you back? And if you listen to this morning's episode, then you already have some clues that will help you get to a place that can get you to your breakthrough. But whether you're looking to improve personal relationships, recover from a breakup, or divorce like I once did, or maybe make some professional choices that can change you into a better direction. Because there was a time in my life where I needed that. And as a result of walking through those landmines, I chose to share some insight so that you do not have to cross over landmines I have already traversed to get to my breakthrough. When you have the opportunity to go through some personal growth, self reflection, it just gives you the opportunity to be intentional. So, when my moments came to be more intentional with decisions in my life, I had to ask myself some questions. I had to ask myself some tough questions. It is not easy to put yourself in a position to ask tough questions. We don't want to first acknowledge some of the mess that we have walked into, but my grandmother used to tell me, if you can define it, then you can deal with it. If you decide to define what's going on in your life, that's one of the first steps that will support you. So, to help me define what was happening in my world, I did an autopsy on my divorce. That autopsy caused me to sit down and look at some of the things that was happening in my soul. What did Tanya need to do? And in order for you to get enough clarity about where you're going, what to do, it often starts with you making some clear questions. I've often heard that the best path to a solution, halfway there, you can get just by asking questions that are great. And a lot of times, you're like I was. You don't want to ask the tough questions because you don't really want to go through those answers. You're already in the middle of chaos. You're already in the middle of mess. So asking yourself questions that will further challenge your thoughts about where you are, how you got there, and what you need to do next is the last thing you want to do. The mental capacity that it takes to start thinking about the questions that need to be asked. That's often difficult. So, what I did to support individuals that may have been walking through the journey that I've already crossed is put some questions that you can ask yourself. I shared in this morning's episode in chapter 6 of my book. The chapter is titled Intentions. It's titled that way because I had to learn to be intentional with what I intended to do. Often, when we are in the middle of chaos, we just know we want to get out, but we don't often pause enough to be intentional with the decisions that we need to make to get there. So, what do you have to choose? What questions do you need to ask yourself? What thoughts do you have to take in the pause to get to a better direction? So, that's what this discussion was about today. And if you want to know more of those touch points specifically from the book, well, I share that in this morning's episode. But for this moment, right here, right now with you, I want to ask you, what do you believe you need to ask of yourself? Because the thing that I had to learn is that lots of times, those first couple of steps, those first few steps are found within us, in the recesses of your soul. You know, the parts of your being that you didn't want to introduce to anybody, but it's also the parts of your being that got trampled on, that put you in this position that you're feeling now. You see, when I was going through doing the autopsy of my divorce, I realized that a lot of what was going through me emotionally was the fact that my ex dredged up some of the things that I had thrown in the basement of my heart, in the basement of my soul, in the basement of my being. I didn't want to have to deal with. I didn't want to have to deal with the abandonment issues that I felt being a motherless child and a daddyless daughter. I didn't want to have to walk back through some of the thoughts that I heard growing up. People saying things about how I looked, how I spoke, what I said, how I thought. I did not fit in. I was one of those awkward kids growing up. I had a lisp. I also stuttered. And there was a thing in my family, depending on when you spoke, you kind of talk kind of fast. So when I got nervous, really, really nervous, when I wanted to get my thoughts out, there were times I was trying to get my thoughts out. I was speaking like this, and it was difficult for people to understand what I was saying, but it's how I needed to just get it all out as much as I can, as fast as I could. That, that didn't support me, but it was a nervousness that I was trying to get through the chaos that caused me to speed up, to walk through some of the paths. And it was hard, y'all. And when you are an individual that still has some of your past thoughts, past behaviors, and past actions that are constantly being thrown in your face while you are trying to make changes, it makes it even more difficult to step into the new version of you. So, what I love for you to do is the one thing that I had to do. Part of that autopsy was Tanya taking a look at me. What was it about me that caused the demise of that relationship? Because you've got to be honest with where you are and what you've done in order for you to put a firmer foundation to get to where you have to go. Because if you are not clear, you will continue to lay the same foundation in a new relationship, on a new job, in a new situation, and you don't want to have that happen. So be honest with you. The gut-wrenching truth about who you are. I had to be clear that, Tanya, when you get nervous, you get nasty. Because what I learned to do growing up to slow me down from the fast-paced talk that fear was pressing me into. Oh, I tried to talk real fast, but when I realized I had to slow it down, my slowdown was nasty. My slowdown was mean. My slowdown was cruel. Because it was me slowing down that gave me the opportunity to form some words that was not very pleasing or supportive. And when I got angry in that marriage, that was my go-to. What I did not want to do moving forward in any new relationship, be it on my job, be it with a new husband at that time, it's not a fathom thought in my mind, but if I did, I didn't want to have to do that. Chaos. Ugh. So if you discover some pieces about who you are, parts of you that you know you go to when you are angry, and then you want to justify your behavior by saying, well, I was upset, thinking that that is supposed to soothe the wounds that you just laid on somebody else's soul. That doesn't always work. That isn't always feasible. So I had to make some decisions. Tanya, you need to fix your language. You need to fix how you function and what you do when you're in the middle of a conflicting moment with your soul. I didn't know then, but I also know now. And some of you that have listened to me, you are aware about getting insight into your conflict sequence. When I discovered my conflict sequence, it gave me an opportunity to start being better in my arguments with others, when my heart felt like you were going down into the basement of my soul and dredging stuff up. Oh, yeah, I had to check that. But I now knew how I was walking into conflict. And then the next thing I had to do was face, face the mess, face how I truly felt about being a daddyless daughter and a motherless child, because those abandonment issues that my ex was dredging up, I did not want to be in a position where I was a single mother, because that singleness just dredged up those other pieces of my past. So I had to sit on the couch with my 8-year-old self who felt abandoned, who felt lost, who felt unloved, and tell her, you're no longer 8 years old. At that point, I was 32. And I had to say at 32 years old, this is new territory for us. We are back in a fearful place in our lives that is not helping us figure out how to move forward. But you're not 8 years old anymore. You don't have who you thought would be in your corner to protect you. But I need you to know that I am here with new skills, new thoughts, new visions, new elements. I don't have it all together, and I don't have to, but I do know at this point in my time, I'm not 8 years old anymore. And the 32-year-old me will figure out a path forward. I know better now how to research some moments. So I'll research the things that I need to get me whole. I know better now how to move into a direction of asking the questions that I need to ask. I may not get all the answers that I desire, but it's okay. I have been to a place before where I never got all the questions answered that I asked. And even though I don't have who I thought would be my protector, inside the recesses of my soul is a protector, someone that loves me. And I had to pause. And that was my first challenging question. Do I love me? Do you love you? Because if you love you like you say you do, then somebody else leaving you, abandoning you, putting you in a situation where you're thinking, I'm not going to be able to make it because they left me. Oh, no. The challenging question will be if you truly love who you are, they were complementary to your being. And if they were a complement, then you're already whole. But if you feel like them leaving you, that broken piece that you had to dredge up out the basement to sit on a couch to have a conversation with, yeah, that challenging question is the first one you need to answer. Do you love you? And it was me asking that challenging question that put me in a moment of self-reflection to say, no, I didn't love me like I thought I did. I didn't love me like I portrayed to the world. I didn't love me to the capacity that I needed to help me move forward so that I can get my breakthrough. So Tanya had to grow. Tanya had to grow into a better version of herself, to know what it was like to be okay with just me. Because at 32 years old, it dawned on me, part of the problem when that marriage ended was that I had never been by myself. I went from my grandmother's house to family and friends all rallying around me after her death. And then when I was in my adulthood, managing stuff out of college, I had college friends come and stay with me in the house because I rented out the rooms to take care of the rent. I found a solution, but I was never by myself. And at 21 years old, I got married. So I still did not live in a life by myself. So that abandonment moment when my ex dredged up all the mess that was sitting in the recesses of my soul, it was because the challenging truths, the questions that I had not asked. Tanya, do you love you? Do you really love who you are at the core of your being? So I decided to rediscover me. Some of you have heard. I went on that path of, do I have, what's my favorite color? What's my favorite flower? All the basic questions that we typically, when we're children, have an answer to. Well, at 32 years old, I did not have the answer that the 8-year-old once possessed. So I had to start all over. And in the starting over, it asked more questions. Well, what is your favorite color? What is your favorite flower? Those were basic pieces, but it led into the deeper discussion of, do you love you? Are you lovable? Do you have the confidence that you need to move into this direction? And if you choose to partner yourself with another relationship, are you the partner that you really want? Are you a good partner for somebody else in their world? I had to start showing up some things because counting the relationship cost wasn't something that I initially did. And here's the next level note. I found this in Luke chapter 14. It was there that I gained the insight about counting the cost. He made the statement that no one starts building something without counting the cost of it. We have a tendency to want to build relationships, build businesses, build our lives on jobs and things, and we don't often count the cost. Count the cost to the relationships that you put yourself in, your relationships to people, places, and things. And so for today, if you don't remember anything else I've shared, here's the one thing I want you to know. In order for you to be true about counting the relational cost, you've got to ask yourself the challenging questions. And if you want someone to join you on the journey, feel free to go to my website, tanyaehood.com. There you can click on the Work With Me tab and see the various ways that we can work with one another. And if anything that I've shared today resonates with you, or someone came to mind while I was sharing this message, send the message to them, like it, so that I'll know that it's insight that is supporting you. And leave your comments below because we can still extend the conversation. In the meantime, this is Tanya E. Hood, walking in my purpose.